And good afternoon. It is ELA time, and I tried doing this morning. Totally forgot to turn my microphone on, so I'm going to try again. Let's see how it goes. Okay, so today we are going to continue what we did the other day with lesson 1 and what are the questions asking you. I'm going to split my screen, and I'm going to show you the article and all of the other things that we will be working with. I do want to have you come and take a look at my board. I created my daily board. So it's March 25th. Our objective for today is to determine correct responses by going back into the text to help reveal the best answers. That's going to be our objective. Our agenda, we are going to spend 5 minutes greeting and going over things. That's what I'm doing right now. We'll spend about 10, maybe 15 minutes on the actual lesson. We'll read the article, we'll answer some questions, and hopefully I can walk you through the best way to answer those questions. Now, the standards that we are going to look at today are 8.4, which is the vocabulary. We did a little bit of that last time. 8.3 is relationships, how they develop through an article. 8.2 is the central idea. And 8.6 is the author's point of view. So we're going to look at all of those things today. We're going to talk about what's next up for you guys. We don't know how long this is going to last. We don't know. We just don't know. So we're going to continue as if it was business as normal. And then I'll do some exit remarks. I do want to remind you, if you can see that, sorry, my email is azon@sesd.us. And then for our remind code, if you text the number 81010 with the message at G3D6CHC8, and then you can join my remind. All right, let's get started. Okay, so first I'm going to read the article itself. I noticed the last time that I did this, learning curve, we're all learning new ways to do things. I should have read the article first and I didn't. So I'm going to read it today, and that's going to help us actually answer these questions as well. Okay? All right, so we read the directions. It says, read this article, then answer questions 15 through 21. We've already answered questions 15 through 17. That was the last video. This excerpt is from a book about the history of the Hudson River, and it is by Hudson Talbot. And you're going to find out later on just why the Hudson River is so important to this person, for obvious reasons. So the excerpt is called River of Dreams. All right. So this is history, so it's nonfiction. It is, he tells us a little bit about what went on with the Hudson River in the early America. And so let's take a listen. By the 20th century, New York City had long since reached its destiny of becoming the most powerful city in America. In less than 300 years, it had grown from a tiny Dutch outpost in the wilderness to the business capital of the world. It was a city built on dreams, but it was made out of bricks and cement that had come from the banks of the Hudson. The river, which had fed all those dreams, was now fading into the background. New York didn't seem to need the river anymore, except as a sewer, and that's what it became. Industry on the river had made some New Yorkers filthy rich, but it had just made the river filthy. Garbage, factory waste, plant chemicals, and the raw sewage of the cities and towns along its banks were dumped directly into the river. The water turned greenish-brown, except by the GM plant, where it turned red or yellow or whatever color they were painting the cars that day. The fishing industry collapsed. The few fish that survived were too poisonous to eat. Smog from the factory smoke and dust from the cement plants blanketed the valley, and it was all legal. Most people don't start out with dreams of polluting a river, but it was often the result of people chasing their dreams of wealth with little care of how they reached it. The Hudson Valley had always drawn them. But now there were other dreamers in the valley with their own dreams of wealth. They dreamed of the wealth of wildlife in a healthy forest, the abundance of fish and oxygen-rich water, and the great fortune of living in a beautiful river valley. So perhaps it was a matter of time before the two types of dreamers would meet each other in court. In 1963, Con Edison, New York City's power company, proposed a plan for constructing the largest hydroelectric pumping station ever built. The plan called for carving out a gigantic hole in the side of majestic Storm King Mountain on the Hudson River. But then they met Franny Reese. Franny was a longtime Valley resident with a simple point to make. The mountain could not speak for itself. If she didn't speak for it, who would? Franny and a group of like-minded people founded Scenic Hudson and took on the power company in a landmark court case. Con Ed challenged the right of private citizens to participate, but the court sided with the citizens in the ruling now known as the Scenic Hudson decision. After dragging out the case for 17 years, Con Ed finally gave up and Storm King survived unblemished. It was the beginning of the environmental movement in this country, and once again, the Hudson Valley was the birthplace. More and more people joined the movement as they realized how much difference each of us can make. The love of their land was still alive in the hearts of Americans, and now that it was aroused again, things began to change. Many new laws and new citizens groups have been inspired by those early heroes of the environment, and their work has begun to bring the Hudson back to life. The Mohicans called it the river that flows both ways. Slowly, we are learning that taking care of the river is the only way that the river can take care of us. 50 years have passed since I dreamed of going to New York to see the river that shares my name, and 35 years since that dream came true. I live in the Hudson Valley now, grateful to all those who came before me, following their dreams to this river, building this nation, sharing its beauty, securing its future. It's now my turn to help in keeping the river of dreams flowing for all those dreamers yet to come. All right, let's take a look at question 18. I could not get my pen to work, so I can't really write down which standard this is for, but if you want to take notes, go right ahead. This will all be up for you to take notes again. And if you miss something, you can go back on YouTube, which you should subscribe to that channel. Subscribe. And you can rewatch this as often as you need. All right. So the first question is standard 8.4, and that's vocabulary. Now, if we remember, question 15 was also a vocabulary, but it was a phrase. So it was in the form of more than one word. It kind of gave you a little hint based on the fact that it was a phrase. This is a single word. All right. So we look at the question. What does unblemished mean as used in paragraph 11? So here's paragraph 11. See if I can get over there. And when we look at the word, we first want to take it apart and see we have roots, we have prefixes, and we have suffixes. So the root word itself is blemish. Okay, and that's this right here. The prefix is un, which means not. And then ed, the suffix is your past tense. Okay. So the choices are unaware, unknown, unharmed, and unstable. So if we go back over here and we look at the paragraph, after dragging out the case for 17 years, Con Ed finally gave up and Storm King survived unblemished. It was the beginning of the environmental movement in this country, and once again, the Hudson Valley was the birthplace. So if we look at that, first of all, we have to know, did something happen to Storm King? What is Storm King? That's why we have to read the article first, because now I know that if I go back up here to paragraph 8, it tells me what happened and what it is. So Storm King is a mountain, as it says right here. And what did they want to do with it? Well, they wanted to construct the largest hydroelectric pumping station ever built, and the plan called for carving out a gigantic hole in the side of the majestic Storm King Mountain. So we really get our answer to number 18, even though it directs us to paragraph 11, we actually get it in paragraph 8. So when we look at that, it's taking this beautiful mountain. How do we know it's beautiful? Well, right here, it says majestic. The majestic Storm King Mountain. We know it's beautiful, it's big. What are they going to do? They're going to carve out a gigantic hole. And what is that going to do? Well, is it going to make the mountain unaware? No. Is it going to make the mountain unknown? I don't think so, because it's still going to be known. We're still going to know that that's Storm King Mountain. Is it going to make the mountain unharmed? Well, actually, it's going to harm the mountain. If they do this gigantic hole, okay, so C is a possibility. Is it going to make the mountain unstable? Well, it could. I mean, putting a gigantic hole in the side of a mountain could make the rocks and stuff unstable and make them fall. So we have two possible choices here, C and D. So now we go back to 11. So now it says that ComEd finally gave up and Storm King survived unblemished. So since they gave up, they didn't put the gigantic hole in the middle of the mountain, and it stayed majestic. So of these two choices, unharmed and unstable, which one is going to be the best choice? Since they didn't put the hole in the mountain's still stable, correct? And it's also hasn't been harmed. So when we look at this, unblemished, if we blemish something, we harm it. So in this case, it is the answer C, unharmed. How many of you guessed that right? Okay. All right. So let's now go on to question 19. 19 directs us to paragraph 15, which is right here. And I do not know why that's not picking it up. Anyway, okay. So question 15, or I'm sorry, 19. Question 19 is standard 8.3. Let's take that standard because I don't think we saw that the last time. It says, in literary texts, analyze how particular lines of dialogue or events propel the action, reveal aspects of a character, or provoke a decision. In informational texts, analyze how individuals, events, and ideas are introduced, relate to each other, and are developed. So in this particular article, it's information because it's a book about the history of the Hudson River or the Hudson Valley. So we're going to look at analyzing how individuals, events, and ideas are introduced or relate to each other and are developed. So the question is, how does the idea expressed in paragraph 15 relate to the article? Okay, so it says, paragraph 15, the Mohicans called it the river that flows both ways. Slowly, we are learning that taking care of the river is the only way that the river can take care of us. Our choices are, A, there are two main ways that the river can be fixed. Does paragraph 15 talk about the river being fixed at all? No. B, the river is able to move in two different directions. We know that because what do the Mohicans call it? The river that flows both ways. So it does do both ways. However, does that help us? Sorry, the dogs are barking. Does that help us relate to anything else that's in there? Does it matter if it flows in two different directions? We don't know. All right, C. People who benefit from the river must also protect it. Hades, you have to stop. Sorry. That's the girls. He won't come down here. I don't know why he doesn't like the stairs, so he must have heard a noise outside, so he's barking like a fool. Hades, you need to stop, please. All right, back to work. All right, so I'm on C. People who benefit from the river must also protect it. Well, when we look at that, it says the Mohicans called it the river that flows both ways. Slowly, we are learning that taking care of the river is the only way that the river can take care of us. Okay, so I'm looking at that. That might be a good one because they're talking about protecting it, and the paragraph itself is talking about taking care of it. All right, D, opposing groups can get what they want from the river. Well, that word opposing, that just throws me right off because there's no opposition in that particular paragraph. There's nothing that's opposing anything. This is a positive paragraph. That's a negative statement. So looking at this, what would your guess be? You can write it down, and then before I tell you what it is, and then you can check yourself if you got it right. I'll give you a few seconds. Okay, so the correct answer to 19 is C. Because, as we stated, even though it's talking about it flowing two different ways, it's not in relation to the whole article because that's the only time we hear about that. We don't hear about it throughout the article. It doesn't bring that up. Two main ways the river can be fixed. No, there's nothing about fixing the river. The river's fine. Opposing groups, I already talked about. The opposition is not there. So when we look at this answer compared to what is in the actual paragraph, it's really talking about people taking care of it. And if you take care of it, you're going to benefit from it. So people who benefit from the river must also protect it, is the correct answer. I want to say if you have any questions about this, please, please, please send me a text. I will answer as quickly as I can. But I had to keep the comments off on here because whenever I upload to YouTube, it asks you if it's for kids, and I have to say yes because it is. So they automatically turn the comments off. But please send me a remind, and I've already given you the code. There it is. Okay. All right. So let's go on to question 20. Question 20 is asking you which sentence is most important to include in a summary of the article. First of all, look at this. Most. So all of these things could be important. Maybe one or two of them aren't important at all. But there's one that's actually the most important to include. And that's why you had to read the whole article. Because you won't know the answer to this if you don't have that background knowledge already in your brain. All right, so let's look at the options. A, one company colored the river red and yellow with excess car paint. B, the Hudson River became polluted in the effort to gain wealth. C, the Mohicans have a saying about taking care of the river. D, the author has dreamed of returning to the Hudson River for 50 years. Now, before I go on and to answer that, actually you can think about it, but I'm going to show you which standard this one belongs to. And it is, what are we on? standard 8.2, which is determine one or more themes or central ideas of a text and analyze their development over the course of the text. Summarize a text. Okay, so this is basically, what is the central idea of this text? What is the central topic? And then that summary, you're going to write a summary based on that. Which one of these 4 sentences must you include? Is the most important for you to include? All right, go ahead, take a second, write down what answer you think it is. All right, so let's break these down. Answer A, one company colored the river red and yellow with excess car paint. Okay, if we go up here, we see that. But do they dwell on that? Do they talk about it a lot? It's just there. It's just a fact. It's just something that they gave you, right? So would it be important? You could put it in there, but would it be the most important? No. Let's look at B. The Hudson River became polluted in the effort to gain wealth. Okay, well, let's take a peek. So a lot of things along this article is talking about people getting rich, right? People getting rich, they are getting wealthy. You see the word wealth all over the place, abundance, great fortune. This could be our answer. Let's hold that one there. C, the Mohicans have a saying about taking care of the river. Now, yes, that's what they said. But you see how vague this is? Do they say what the saying is? No, they don't. This one we can just completely take out. It is not C. D, the author has dreamed of returning to the Hudson River for 50 years. Okay, so for 50 years he did, but however, look at right here. How many years did he do it? 35. So this it's not really fitting. So therefore, if you answered B, you are correct. Okay? Again, any questions, shoot me a remind and we will talk about it there. Okay? All right, let's look at number 21. All right, 21 is standard 8.6. And it is, in literary text, analyze how the differences between the point of view, perspectives of the characters, the audience, or the reader create effects such as mood and tone. In informational text, which is what we read, analyze how the author addresses conflicting evidence or viewpoints. Okay. We are still looking at author's point of view here. Which quotation best expresses the author's point of view in the article? So they're going to give us a bunch of quotes directly from the text. We're going to decide which one really talks about what this author is thinking. All right, A. In less than 300 years, it had grown from a tiny Dutch outpost in the wilderness to the business capital of the world. Paragraph 1. That's all the way in the beginning. Okay. In 1963, Con Edison, New York City's power company, proposed a plan for constructing the largest hydroelectric pumping station ever built. Paragraph 8. C. More and more people joined the movement as they realized how much difference each of us can make. Paragraph 12. D. It's now my turn to help in keeping the river of dreams flowing for all those dreamers yet to come. Right there. All right. Now, here's the trick to this one. You're looking at author's point of view. Essentially, that's the author's opinion. Okay? If it's a fact, it's probably not his point of view. It's not his opinion. It's a fact. So we're looking for the one that shows his opinion. All right, in less than 300 years, it had grown from a tiny Dutch outpost in the wilderness to the business capital of the world. Is that a fact or an opinion? Okay, so that's what you have to ask yourself. Before we go on, though, what I want you to do is write down your guess. What do you think this is? What do you think the answer to 21 is? Let me give you a second. Okay, so let's continue. B, in 1963, Con Edison, New York City's power company, proposed a plan for constructing the largest hydroelectric pumping station ever built. Fact or opinion? Okay. C, more and more people join the movement as they realize how much difference each of us can make. So again, fact or opinion? It's now my turn to help in keeping the river of dreams flowing for all those dreamers yet to come. Fact or opinion? Okay. So when we looked at A, that's a fact. In less than 300 years, it had grown from a tiny Dutch outpost in the wilderness to the business capital of the world, which it still is. B, in 1963, Con Edison, New York City's power company, proposed a plan for constructing the largest hydroelectric pumping station ever built, is a fact because that's what they did. C, More and more people joined the movement as they realized how much difference each of us can make. Here we're bordering on a fact and an opinion. Okay, so it's a fact that the more and more people join the movement, but why did they join the movement? Do we really know? It could be the realized, and that's one of those gray areas. I know people will argue with me. No, that's still a fact. It is still kind of a fact, but there's a little hinge of an opinion in there. D, it's now my turn to help in keeping the river of dreams flowing for all those dreamers yet to come. Who told him to take that on? I didn't. Did you? Did the city of New York? No one did. So it's really his opinion. Okay, so the correct answer to 21 is D. Give yourself a round of applause if you got that right. Okay. All right. Again, if you have any questions on any of these, please make sure you shoot me a remind. You can also send me an email at azahn@sesd.us, and I will answer all questions for you. Okay. All right. So now we are getting on to the what's next. All right, Ms. Pluck and I have decided that you need to know and understand what's happening right now. And the best way to do that is through history and historical fiction. Okay, so we're going to read the novel Fever 1793, which you don't need a book for, because, as I'm going to show you, we have a PDF copy. Okay, so the PDF copy, let me move me out of the way so you can see it. The PDF copy, all you have to do, obviously, is you can Google Fever 1793 PDF, and it's from the White Plains Public Schools site. You just click on it, and it'll take you right to it. Okay? Now, I make this a little smaller. This is by Laurie Halse Anderson, and I will tell you that she, right now on her YouTube channel, is reading the book. So you can search her on YouTube, and she's starting to read the book now. Unfortunately, that she has shared is that she has been tested for this virus, so she's kind of stopped. I think she got 3 chapters done, but it really isn't a hard read, so you'll be able to read it pretty quickly. Okay, so let's take a look. What do you notice on this book? What do you see? Okay, you can write that down. What do you notice? What I'm hoping that you notice is the yellow that's in this cover, because this book is about the yellow fever that happened in 1793, and it affected people. It was a fever that affected their liver. So in affecting the liver, this is why their eyes turned yellow and their skin turned yellow, and it was called the yellow fever. So let's read the back of the book. During the summer of 1793, Mattie Cook lives above the family coffee shop with her widowed mother and grandfather. Mattie spends her days avoiding chores and making plans to turn the family business into the finest Philadelphia has ever seen. But then the fever breaks out. Disease sweeps the streets, destroying everything in its path and turning Mattie's world upside down. At her feverish mother's insistence, Mattie flees the city with her grandfather, but she soon discovers that the sickness is everywhere, and Mattie must learn quickly how to survive in the city turned frantic with disease. All right, so this is actually about an epidemic, not a pandemic. You're going to learn the difference between the two with materials that Ms. Pluck has provided for you, and you'll see there is a difference between pandemic and epidemic. What we are going through right now is a pandemic, and it's affecting the entire world. So one of the reasons we decided to do this is to show you why it's important to do what we have been asked to do, which is to step away from life at the moment and take on a new role. It's important for the good of the entire community to make sure that we do what is asked of us and we understand why. As you read this book, you're going to understand, I think, a little bit better. And as you read the materials that Miss Pluff and I have gathered for you, you're going to understand better. And that, I hope, helps you with any anxiety that you might be having at this time. Okay? So if you have any questions, I keep saying it, go ahead. Send me an email, azahn@sesd.us, and then use the remind tool. Okay? So it is, you text the number 81010 and you put in the message at G3D6CHC8. Okay? All right. I hope everything is going well. Let me know if you need anything, and I will talk to you later. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. Bye.